every time with the business, I'd kind of play that trick in my mind. I'd tell myself, okay, if this doesn't happen, then that's a sign I shouldn't go any further. But somehow, every time I did that, another door opened.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Beverly Anderson is one of my favorite people. She is the founder and CEO of EQ Wear. She's also a personal friend of mine who I tremendously admire for her tenacity and work ethic. At the beginning of the episode, we talk about our 15 plus year friendship and also the group of friends who has been together since our kids were in preschool and now they're seniors in high school. So we kind of reminisce a little bit. But we also get into her business. Beverly, as you'll hear, is a true entrepreneur at heart and shares about her education and passions coming together to help her form her brand EQ Wear. She's a passionate equestrian and really saw this niche market in creating this brand and has grown that from there. She's also very humble. She works with some amazing brands and really doesn't mention that in the podcast, but she has had a lot of success from that. But she is truly an inspiration and is very honest in this interview about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. She also shares a story about going to a show where she was supposed to market her product, but actually didn't have a product to sell, and what she did to make her idea work. So this interview was very special to me, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, I'm recording.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, Beverly, I am so happy to be talking with you this morning. I just want to thank you for being here. You are one of my dearest friends. We have known each other for a long time. And I might just start out with talking about, I know we're going to get into the business, but the meaning of friendship too, because we've known each other since our boys were in preschool. And now they're seniors in high school. So that's how long. And we've kept in contact through a group of lovely ladies who meet monthly. And of course, we didn't during COVID and quarantine, but we're back at it again. And those friendships are some of the greatest, easy people to catch back up with, to be around. And you're one of those. So I feel lucky to know you.
Oh, I feel doubly the same about you, Nancy. Honestly, you inspire me every time we're together because you're always doing something new and innovative, and your enthusiasm is contagious, and it's just fantastic to know you. And I know it's people like you and our other friends who, we truly support each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's no journey more foundational than a journey of raising your children and other women that you're going through the same journey with. It's amazing. It's a great bond. And we'll always have it.
Yeah. That's right. Even when the kids go off to college, and I know they're going to be doing that very, very shortly, we can lean on each other. We'll be empty nesters together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Kind of looking forward to it in an odd way, and not.
Yeah, right. Yes. I know. And same. I think because you raise them to be strong and want to go out on their own, but then, it's important to, have those close ties, and I know we both do. So, yeah.
I know. I always say the two things I fear most in life are his failure to launch, and number two, launching.
Yeah.
He's gone.
That's right. That's so funny. I feel the same. We'll have to talk. Yeah. Once the boys are out and gone, we'll have to kind of circle back together. But anyway, I just wanted you to know how much I valued your friendship and am so excited to be talking to you this morning. You are a very accomplished business person. And when you gave me that compliment, I have always admired you and your passion and your drive, and you are always so positive and so professional and just such a light. And I know business has its ebbs and flows and ups and downs, but I also admire you because you are very innovative. You're a designer. You started your own company, but it was boots on the ground. You were the one who started it and have continued to grow it. And so I wanted to kind of get into that. So you are the founder and president of EQ Wear. And I thought if you want to talk a little bit about EQ Wear, and then we'll kind of talk about your journey a little bit.
I'd love to. So EQ Wear started out as a athleisure brand. Well, I didn't even know the word athleisure when I first started it. It really started because I started riding horses again. So I'm a lifelong horse person. They're my passion. But because of just the way my life was, I just hadn't been riding. So I finally thought, okay, here I am in Oklahoma. I need a horse. So I bought a horse, started riding again. And he's a quarter horse, so I was riding Western. And I thought, what are these people wearing out here? And and everybody wears jeans, but I was not comfortable riding in jeans. And I'd grown up riding English horse, saddle seat and English style. And we have clothing for that. And with Western, they have jeans that are made for riding and things, but they're still jeans. So I tried a number of them. I tried riding in yoga pants. You almost fly out of the saddle. All these different things. And then I finally realized there's nothing out there. I think I'm going to figure this out. So I was a business consultant at the time. And so I kind of just approached it like I did any other business consulting project. And I started interviewing people, horsewomen, equestrians that did different styles of riding, and people in the apparel industry and retail owners and things like that, and looking all over the place for things to wear. And when I really didn't find anything, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to try to make a pair of these. So, it was I was thinking about, okay, lots of businesses are launched by filling a personal need. So, a famous example is Southwest Airlines. So, Roland King had business in Dallas and Houston and Austin and San Antonio. And before he started Southwest Airlines, there was Braniff, who you could wait around for 8 hours for a flight to one of those places.
That's right.
Yeah. They would have the link from, they do a flight in from, say, London, and then do a hop from Dallas to Houston. But if the flight from London was 2 hours late, there you were. And driving wasn't practical because it's, 3 or 4 hours between each of those places. Anyway, the long and the short of it was he needed something, so he develops. Here we are, Southwest Airlines. All these decades later, it's premier corporation, and so I kind of was thinking, okay, if I need these, surely there are other people out there who need them too. So I decided I'm going to really nail this. I'm going to make these really great. So I took off on that path to just nail a pair of pants, really with the idea that I could wear them, and then hopefully if I could wear them, other people might want them, maybe not. So, and it was very topsy-turvy, as you say, ups and downs, lots of ups and downs. I can remember doing it and, just getting so frustrated, like I couldn't find the right fabrics. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to go to New York, I'm going to look for the fabrics. If I don't find the fabrics, that's it. That's my stop sign. That's something telling me don't do it anymore. But of course, every time with the business, I I'd kind of play that trick in my mind. I'd tell myself, okay, if this doesn't happen, then that's a sign I shouldn't go any further. But somehow, every time I did that, another door opened.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so, I started finding great fabrics, and there were a series of similar things that happened like that. But somehow it all kind of kept working out. Mm-hmm. And where I meet a roadblock, I remember one time we started making them, and I was actually I had a booth at a horse show. I had a place in Oregon that was making them. And I'm sitting there in this booth. I have nothing to show, and I'm calling them. I'm like, hurry, you've got to hurry. I've got to have some samples.
You were in a booth sitting there and didn't have any product?
I had no product. Well, they were supposed to be there. And then, manufacturing is very difficult, especially if you're a small brand and, no one has an allegiance to you and they're just kind of fitting you in. Right. So I was sitting there, I'm like, please, I can't do this through just smoke and mirrors. I've got to have something. And this woman calls me up and she says, well, we've started doing them, but I don't think you're going to like them. So she sent me a couple of pairs. And somehow the way they graded the pattern, so you have a pattern, mm-hmm. and then grading a pattern is making it bigger and smaller, so making it into the different sizes. So I had somebody grade the pattern for me, and she started making the pants, and something about the way they graded the pattern was, honestly, I said, well, if Humpty Dumpty walks by my booth, maybe I could sell him a pair.
No.
The legs were tiny and the waists were huge, and it was just a complete disaster. It was, no one in the world could have fit in these pants. Well, Humpty Dumpty, but yeah, and they weren't very attractive, as you can imagine. So I just said, stop the clock. So I actually took a red eye to Portland, went there the next day, kind of reshuffled the deck to see what we could do, and then flew back. Because, you have to man your booth the whole time.
Oh my gosh, Beverly.
I know, it was insane. So we did all that, and I got a few pair out, but then, I was working with some designers there, and we were talking about these pants, and they said, well, to do a full pattern range, and, it means, you do all the sizes and you have to get the fit models in. It's not like I thought it should be, just like, okay, you put this stuff in a computer and it spits out all the sizes,
Right.
You'd think it was just a mathematical thing, but there's something about it. There's more artistry. There's more sort of magic in doing this. It just doesn't work like that.
Okay.
So they said, well, to do that, we're going to need, I can't remember the number right now, but it was around probably $15,000 to $20,000 to do it. And I was like, whoa, no, I get, So I thought, well, you know what? I'm an engineer. I can probably figure this out. So I just took everything home and on my living room floor just started drawing patterns. And I just learned a lot. So I had my friends, I'm surprised you weren't one of them. My friends who were like, okay, I'm a really solid size 8. I never have to get anything altered. I'm an 8. So I'd have that person come and try on the 8, and we just work it like that, 8, 10, 12, 16, whatever it was, and figure out the patterns. And from then on, it was just like, okay, I can do this. And every time I meet a huge roadblock, I just kind of reshuffle the deck and figure it out and just do it.
Does that stress you out, or did that make you, that kind of made you rise to that next level, right? Because you were moving past it and doing it.
Yeah. I think what I was kind of conscious of was when I got to the part about, I'll just draw these myself. Listen, the last time I drew something on an engineering board was like 30 years ago. Long time ago. Mm-hmm. But I kind of thought, well, why do I have that knowledge if I don't use it now? So I just pulled out all my drafting stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was conscious of. It's like, well, I can do this. I can do that. And it's not like why I went to business school or why I became an engineer. I never in a billion years thought I would be using any of my talents to sit on my living room floor and draw patterns for pants. But that's what happened.
That's interesting. It's interesting when you see the knowledge that you have acquired.
And you think, well, I must have learned that for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, it's kind of like, I always wanted to speak Spanish, so I really deliberately, so I went to University of Madrid for a semester, and I really wanted to work in South or Central America, and I never got to. But
was that in college? Did you study abroad? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, and then, in my recent life, like recent being the last 20 years, I realized I need Spanish. I have to have Spanish. So a lot of the people that work for me only speak Spanish. So I speak Spanish every day now.
Okay. Yeah.
For my business. And you just kind of look back in your life and you think, why? And then I don't know, there's something kind of beautiful and magical about these things converging, and you kind of realize, well, did I know back then I would need it now? I don't know, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's neat that was your path, and you had like a strong feeling like you've got to learn Spanish, and going and learning in Madrid, and now here you are using it. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I love that. I love that it's all coming together. It's all come together for you. Another thing that has come together for you is one of our famous little places. This is here in Tulsa, Miss Ann's. You decided to purchase Miss Ann's, and that has helped you with your manufacturing. Is that right? Of the pants?
Well, it's sort of yes and no.
Okay. Okay.
That was the idea. Well, so Miss Ann was a truly wonderful human being to begin with, but she was a great seamstress, and she was really there for me when I first started the pants. So she actually made my samples. Oh. So like the very, very, very first pants, when I was just trying to I would just take a pair of jeans and write in them and kind of draw all over them how I wanted them to be different and stuff. And she really helped me with my very first samples. She was great. She was just so giving and wonderful. And then unfortunately she got cancer and died way too young. Mm-hmm. And but she built this fantastic business. I mean, every time you went in there were so many people in and out of there, both customers and people that were working there. And she had over 7,000 people on her books that were customers.
Oh, wow.
I know. And she had a single heir son, and he had no interest in keeping the business going. Yeah. And so he just shut the business down. So I just thought, well, you know what? She's got people in there who know a lot about sewing because they worked with her. And I thought there would be some good synergy with what I was doing. And I also thought, what a pity to have such a great Tulsa institution just shut down. Mm-hmm. So I decided to buy it. Mm-hmm. So I did. Mm-hmm. And I reopened the doors about 3 months later. 3 months after she died. And as it turned out, it's like asking your ear, nose, and throat guy to work on your feet. I mean, they may have some knowledge, but they don't really want to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of how it was with seamstresses. If they are production seamstresses, like putting things together for the first time. Oh,
I see. Okay.
It's a different skill set. So, especially if you're making a whole piece, if all these big, huge manufacturing places, you may be putting in one.
So you're not doing that at Miss Ann's anymore?
I tried.
Okay, you tried.
But then they didn't. Okay. They didn't want to do it. So okay. I have two different sort of operations for these.
Okay. So let me ask you then about, I want to know your highs and your lows of the business, because when people are listening, I want them to learn from other people. So if you're willing to share that, the win or the high is typically an easy one. And
yeah, I mean, so being, when you own your own business, it's, I'm sure most people realize, when times are hard, you're the last one to get paid. You're doing everything, like during the pandemic. I will tell you, I was so afraid of losing my employees. that I just got out there and started beating the street. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? I've got people, I've got equipment, and we were shut down. So there was no retail business, so that's scary. It's scary to lose your people, but it's also scary to know that you have to keep paying them. They have families and obligations like anybody else, And so that's hard to keep paying everybody and making sure that everybody's well taken care of and that there is no disruption in their lives so that they keep coming back to work for you. That's hard. And I think in any business, and I always say this, and in life, it's hard to find really great partners where you feel like you've got sort of equal equity and equal input and all that kind of thing. But it makes life so much better if you have that. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a partner with Miss Ann's or EQ Wear. And if I had to do it over again, I would work really hard to try to find a partner, just because it's very lonely when things get tough. And when things get tough, either because you have so much business, you don't know how to get it done, and then customers are leaving, or you're starting to do it incorrectly, or you don't have enough business, and then financing gets very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And listen, almost every business, I don't care how big if you're really big, you've got enough, cash that you can sustain the business for a long time before you run out. But if you're a small business, you don't. I mean, you don't have like a ton of cash in reserves that you can live this thing out. Like, we could never have lived through the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so those times are hard and lonely, very lonely. And if I could not have any of those, that would be great. But, even when you're in a healthy business, and like I say, sometimes we get so busy that we can't deliver and people are mad and things like that. I had one boss that said, I was in the construction industry for a long time, and I had one boss that said, companies don't go broke because of lack of business. Companies go broke because they get overextended and say they'll do too much and then can't deliver. Mm-hmm. And, I've always thought about that since he said that to me. So that's hard. And highs can be so simple. I mean, everybody's there, everybody's happy, everybody seems to be enjoying their work. You get compliments from a customer. A good customer with a compliment goes a long way. And we're a service business in Miss Ann's, so and we don't take tips or anything like that. And just having customers who really just appreciate what we do is big, really big. And I know it means a lot to the people who are working there. Mm-hmm. And in the product business, it's easy to stoke my ego in the product business, because if somebody loves your product and wants to wear it, that's everything. Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. Or somebody really writes you a great letter, something like that. It's great. It's little stuff.
I love that, because you're not one to brag on yourself, but you have had some big contracts with some big brands. And so I thought you might say something about that, but I love your answer on that. That's great. Yeah. Okay. So what advice would you have to people, aside from maybe getting a partner, for people who are thinking about going into business?
On their own? I mean,
starting a business. Because I think people have great ideas. They maybe don't know where to start, or they don't have the confidence to take the next step and get started. And so sometimes it's just interesting from somebody. You've started numerous businesses. You always think outside the box. You're very entrepreneurial minded. And also your tenacity is unmatched. I mean, you are a very, very hard worker. You're very consistent. I think people know what to expect with you. So I feel like you've got all of that mastered, but out of all of that, I know, business and opening a business is hard. There's pros and there's cons, but if there's one little nugget that you'd like to share with people that maybe would help them on their journey in deciding even whether they wanted to take that next step and start a business.
Well, you may not like my answer on this, but I always say this when I talk to a group of entrepreneurs. If there's any possibility that you can work for somebody else at a big corporation, if you can imagine that for yourself, in even a sliver of that, then you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Because listen, it's hard. It is really hard. And you're going to, like we talked about, you're going to have lots of highs and lots of lows and lots of times when you're lonely and lots of times when you don't know if you're going to get to pay your mortgage or your rent and your kids aren't going to get the shoes they want. There are a lot of times like that if you had a job and somebody else was worrying about that, you don't have to worry about that. And I tell people, if you can work for somebody else and actually be okay with it, you should do that, But if you can't, if you have an idea that is just burning in your soul, you have to see it through. Or, in my case, I'm just not very good at working for other people, to be honest. I always thought I was so much smarter than my bosses, and why didn't they do it this way or that way? I'm just not good at working in a big corporation under other people. And so if that's you, like it is me, then yeah, go for it. Go for it for sure. And just keep at it. Another part of that is just being kind of stupidly bullheaded. You're just going to keep going. Because in your darkest times, and you may think there's just no way out of this, there will be this little bloom, this opportunity that comes your way. Some little door will crack or a window will open or something, and you just keep going. You just keep at it. But it's not easy. It's really not easy. That's why my first sort of recommendation is don't do it if you could possibly not do it. But there are so many people out there who have to do it. And for those people, I say fantastic, because truly a business, and particularly small business, is the backbone of who we are, the backbone of our country for sure, and employs by far the most people. Can be the most satisfying. So if you don't want, listen, being at the top of a company really kind of means that you're at the bottom because you answer to everyone. But you are calling the shots. And that's empowering, and it feels good. And when things are going well, it is fantastic. And when things are going well, you do well financially too.
Okay, I love that explanation. Okay, in wrapping up, it's interesting because you mentioned before we started recording that this could be a hard question for you, but I'm wanting to focus on purposefulness and purposeful living a purposeful life, and that's been the theme that I have started for 2023 is live purposefully. And I wanted to find out from you your perspective on how you are fulfilling your purpose or how you're living purposefully.
Well, as we spoke about before, of all your questions, I feel like that's the hardest one, because I feel like so much of my time is just busy doing what I'm supposed to be doing, just putting one foot forward from the next. And this year I've opened 2 additional shops for Miss Ann's, which has been more than triple the work, much more work than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why, and so to sort of drop back and kind of think about how am I living purposefully is interesting. And one thing I did realize during the pandemic, and I think most of us had more time to kind of figure out, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? When we had that space. And even though it was crazy space and kind of frenetic, as I was talking about before, there were a lot of moments of silence, a lot of times that was just sort of tranquil and, I don't want to say empty, but there was space there. And I realized then that I'm a lifelong equestrian. I love horses, and like many people, there's kind of no halfway with horses. You either don't care about them at all, or you're madly in love with them, and which is a big part of how I created one of my businesses. Was that I knew that there were a lot of people out there passionate about the same thing I am, and I realized then that how lucky I am to have a passion that is outside of, truly is outside, my writing is outside of my work. So outside of work and, all my other family obligations and things like that, it's really my Zen space. And I can even tell if it's been too long between being out with my horses and riding my horses, I start to get a little agitated, and it's like, I know I have to get out there and just clear my head and have something that truly gives me a peace of mind. So I feel really lucky to have that. And I've seen it in my friends too. I mean, whether they're passionate about music or automobiles or whatever it might be, hunting or, fishing or whatever, that having that is really grounding and great. And I feel so lucky to have that. And I also feel like being able to keep things in perspective. When I look back at the shape of my career, I can look at junctures where I did not make very good financial decisions, but they may not have been. They were not motivated at all by financially. They were motivated by personal things, and I made some big decisions in order to have the kind of life I wanted to lead. I completely changed everything I was doing to raise my son so I could be home and sleep in my own bed every night and raise my son. Mm-hmm. And that is something that, even though, financially I probably would be in a very different spot had I not done that, personally, there's nothing more rewarding than raising a child and having that connection. I would never have given that up or changed that for anything. And so I'm very happy about the way that turned out.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll wrap up with that. I just appreciate your time and am thankful you were here, and it's just been a joy getting to visit with you today.
Oh, I feel the same with you, Nancy. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.